I went from a marriage on the brink of divorce to being respected by my wife, being appreciated and loved, lots of sex, lots of intimacy, but most importantly, having that connection back. And not only did I do that in my marriage, I started growing my business, reaching multiple seven figures, $5 million a year, while having a team that looked up to me, a daughter that looked up to me, basically being the leader that so many men crave. If you want to become a better leader, then there are 3 steps you need to take right away to re-increase that connection, that respect and appreciation from those around you. This is going to accelerate your relationships, your health, your wealth. It improves every area of your life, and 98% of men are getting this wrong. So in today's podcast episode, I'll be breaking down the 3 steps to become a better leader for your wife, your kids, your team, and yourself. The first step here that has completely changed my life is the idea of responsibility. For years, what I would do is play the blame game in my relationships. When my wife and I went through our roughest, darkest time, we were not having any sex, we were disconnected emotionally, arguing all the time at each other's throats. And even though I had a successful business and I was providing safety and security, which is what I thought every woman wanted, I was disconnected emotionally from my partner. Because I was working all the time and so busy, I didn't spend much time with her. And when I did, I just wanted to get laid and chill out and not talk about anything because that was my default response as a man. I wasn't taught how to have those deeper conversations. Now, naturally, because Rosie, my wife, was disconnected from me emotionally, she didn't want to have sex. She used the "I'm too tired" card. I don't want to do that. We're not connected. All the stuff that you've heard. And we get into arguments about silly shit. I would blame her for that. I blamed her for the disconnection. I blamed her for the lack of support because she used to be my cheerleader in business. Now she was judging me for coming home late, and I blamed her for that disconnection. A real leader, a man who takes responsibility, means that he responds to situations like this from a frame of power. What I mean by that is, what most men do is they react. When you react to a situation, you're like a thermometer. A thermometer goes up your ass, it goes under your armpit, it goes in your mouth. Hopefully not in that order. But a thermometer can only react to a situation. That means if it's hot or if it's cold, the thermometer has no control over the temperature. What you want to do is you want to become a man who is a thermostat. A thermostat goes on the wall, and that thermostat can influence the temperature. If it gets too hot, the thermostat can turn the temperature down. It can be automated to do that. If it gets too cold, the thermostat can raise the temperature. Well, it's the exact same in our relationships. We expect our partner, our children, our team members to give us some degree of respect and appreciation for all the hard work we do. When they don't do that, we typically get triggered and we react. We get angry, we get grumpy, we get into an argument, we get judgmental, we start comparing them to who we think they should be because we have expectation. When you take responsibility in your relationships, if there is something not working, there's an argument, you're not having enough sex, people aren't pulling their weight at work, whatever it is, whatever the problem is, with your children, your partner, your colleagues, your employees, you ask yourself one question: how am I responsible for this? What is my role to play in this situation? Why am I lacking the things that I want in this relationship? What have I done incorrectly? What have I not done? So in the case of my relationship, when I took responsibility of the situation and stopped blaming, being a thermometer up the ass, and became a thermostat, I realized that I wasn't filling my wife's love bank. I wasn't spending enough time with her. She didn't feel understood. She didn't feel appreciated. She didn't feel supported. Even though I was working hard and making money, that was the story, she wasn't feeling any of the love that I was giving. When I took responsibility, I realized that I had to fill her cup. Even though I was busy and stressed at work, it's hard, it's unfair, make her feel the things that she deserved to feel. And lo and behold, when I took ownership of the quality of my relationship, my wife started being happier. She started feeling more of the things she wanted from a husband, and she started reciprocating in our relationship. When I took responsibility in my business of employees who weren't pulling their weight, I hired them. I didn't train them well. I didn't onboard them. I didn't have a process for that. I took ownership of that and I started putting things into place to change that. Lo and behold, they got better. And the ones who didn't got fired and left, and we hired properly the next time around. The question you got to ask yourself, if your relationships aren't working, if you're not the leader in your household, if you feel disrespected or unappreciated, is how have you created that? Because leaders take ownership. That's literally what it means to lead. You are the owner of the project. You are the owner of the situation. You are the leader of the household. And as a leader, as a CEO or director, yes, the weight is on your shoulders. And when you take ownership of that and own that, you absolutely win. So the first step here to become the leader of your household again is ultimately to take responsibility. What can you take ownership for when it comes to the quality of your relationships? The second step here is after responsibility, and that's response. How do you respond to stress? How do you respond to difficult situations? Leaders are looked up to. People follow them because they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. And despite that pressure and that stress and that weight that you carry every single day, you show the fuck up anyway. This is so difficult to do. How we respond to things allows people to create a story of who we are. As an example, when I first started my business, I would respond to the stress of taxes, bills, providing by drinking every night. Because I didn't know how to regulate my emotions, I would sedate myself with alcohol, substances, and scrolling on the phone. That was the only way I knew how to switch my brain off. So if you imagine the perception of my daughter or my wife, I didn't have a daughter at the time, but my daughter and my wife, I come home after a long day or go from the office back into the house. I walk in and I'm stressed. My energy is triggered, it's angry. They build a perception of who I am, and that perception is based on my response to the stimulus. If my wife's upset and she's stressed, and then I respond to that through anger and judgment, I'm like, why are you fucking stressed? I've been working all day. Then that builds a perception of how she sees me. Leaders are able to calmly and patiently not just take responsibility for the fact that things aren't working, but also respond from a frame of power. Now, responding from a frame of power means that you're able to take that stress and that pressure, and you're able to show up happy, patient, calm, and unfuckwithable. We call it Teflon Don. This took me 6 years of running a business to figure out, and I finally got it down pat to a degree. We teach it to all of our clients, by the way. You can do it in 3 weeks. When I come home now after a stressful day, and my wife says, how was your day? I'm able to respond calmly and go, it was fucking hard. And I'm smiling. She's like, you seem pretty chill. I'm like, yeah, I'm choosing to be relaxed. I'm choosing to control my thoughts, control my emotions, control my actions and reactions. Now I fuck it up sometimes. Sometimes I get triggered, but I've gone from being able to get triggered every day, like 29 days out of 30 in a month triggered, to 1 out of 30, I'm now triggered. Like you can literally go to not being stressed, not being angry, not being negative, responding calmly and patiently to situations in the space of a few weeks. And you can go from doing that every day to a few days. So the question you got to ask yourself is, how often do you react to situations? How often do you react to your children playing up, your wife and her attitude, how things are or aren't around the house, the pressure from work or your business? How often do you react to these things? I used to do it all the fucking time. And what would your life look like as a leader in your household, in your business, if you were able to get rid of those reactions and calmly and patiently respond? Because after all you can control is your thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions. You can't control the tax bill. You can to a degree. You can't control your wife's behavior or her period or the fact that she's tired. You can't control your children acting up. You can try to control those things, but you can't control anyone outside of you. All you can control is your response, right? Everything that happens after the trigger or the problem is up to you. It's your response. And powerful men, leaders of a household, they know how to stop a trigger, shift the story around it and go, you know what? I got this. I'm all good. An employee quits. Stressful. You're allowed to get triggered. Fuck, this is really hard. I'm going to choose, the keyword here is choice. I'm going to choose to just handle this. Massive tax bill comes in. I'm going to choose to handle it. Stressful day, dealing with shit. Go to see the family. I'm going to choose to switch off and be calm. Wife is at your throat about something stupid again. I'm going to choose to let it go. When you become this man, you become unfuckwithable. It all starts with your response. That is step 2 here. How do you respond to situations? How you respond dictates how people see you as a leader. If they see you being stressed, if they see you being triggered, they're gonna see that you're not the leader they think you are. The third step here is being real. And we're gonna break real down into 2 categories. There's communication and vulnerability. I coach a client who does very well for himself. He's worth almost $200 million. He's got millions of dollars in the bank. He's a very successful guy, but he was never taught how to communicate and be vulnerable as a man. So his attitude has been, destroy the cunts, fucking let it go. I can't cry, I can't show emotion. And one of the most powerful things you can do as a leader is communicate through vulnerability that it is fucking hard, that you are stressed and you are tired and you are burnt out. And despite those things, you are choosing to take responsibility for how you show up, to choose the response that makes you unfuckwithable, despite how fucking hard it is. This is being real with your loved ones. For years in my relationship with Rosie, she would ask me how my day was. I'd be like, it was all right. She'd say, well, what happened today? Nothing. As a man, I wasn't taught how to communicate, which is crazy because I knew how to communicate in business and run team meetings, but God forbid, telling my wife how I felt was so foreign to me. It's almost like we feel like we have to be strong and we can't show weakness. Now, what I currently do is completely different. I will go downstairs and I will be real with my wife by communicating through vulnerability. I'll say, fuck, today was a stressful day. I had to fire someone. It was rough. Because I'm communicating with her how hard it was, she now understands me better. And she in her mind goes, one, he actually trusts me enough to tell me that. And two, he's smiling and he's happy and he's positive most of the time, even though he just had to fire someone. So she now creates a neural link in her head where she goes, that's leadership. Now, if I go downstairs and go, fuck, it was a shit day, that's the opposite of leadership. That's not responsibility, not response. But through being real with her and over communicating what's going on, she now understands what I'm going through. And if she can marry that to the idea that I'm still showing up as the fucking man, which I am most of the time, not all the time, I'm not perfect, now she creates that neural link of he's a leader. I absolutely love this image that breaks this actually down of how being real and communicating is powerful. So success is like an iceberg. I'm going to share my screen with you. If you're listening right now, I'll read it out to you. So what people see when you're successful is they see money, a car, a watch, a house. What they don't see is the sacrifice. Trying to stay healthy and have good habits and a growth mindset and be focused while having constant disappointment, being rejected, the sleepless nights, the tears, the persistence, having to hit goals, the expenses, the rejections, the time management. Like no one sees this stuff. And as leaders, no one is going to see it. It's like the iceberg. The tip of it's above. That's what everyone sees. They don't see anything below. Now, when I'm able to communicate with my wife how my day was and get real with her through vulnerability, she now starts to understand me better, which means she's more supportive of my goals. She understands the fact that I ate shit that day, instead of me expecting her to read my mind, which is exactly what most people do in relationship. Now, what you want to do here is just ask yourself, how often do I communicate with my loved ones what's going on for me in my life? How often do I communicate what I'm thinking about? Like the negative thoughts, the fears, the uncertainties. How often do I communicate my emotions and my feelings? Men struggle to do this. So how do I get good at it? Practice. How often do I say, you know what, today was really stressful. You know what, I'm feeling pretty flat today. You know, I've been feeling quite down recently. This happened to me 4 or 5 weeks ago. I had a massive burnout in my business. We're doing amazing, we're helping people. I was just burnt out. Got a team of 12 now. And my wife and I were doing well, but I wasn't being vulnerable. I was taking responsibility. I wasn't reacting to anything. I was taking ownership, which is what I teach my clients. And one day I had a meeting, and a minute before the meeting, I just broke down. I just started crying in my office here. And I was crying because of all the pressure that I felt. You know, I'm supporting my daughter, my wife's parents, my dad. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month of expenses, team members, their emotions, and I just broke down. And I realized that I hadn't shared with my wife for a few weeks what was going on for me. So she had no idea. And I actually walked downstairs while I was crying, and my wife said, "What's wrong?" And I gave her a big hug, and I just hugged her for like 5 minutes. And that took a lot of vulnerability for me. A lot of men would say, don't do that. Now, I've done that once in the last 2 years. Most of the time, what she sees is a strong man, a confident man, but she got to see that version of me to truly understand how fucking hard I was finding it. That night, I went away by myself for a drive, got an Airbnb, stayed by myself, and she understood that. Now, if I had just said to her, "Hey, I'm leaving today," she's like, "What do you mean?" "Yeah, I'm gonna go by myself. I'm fine. I just wanna go fucking spend a night by myself, leave you and my daughter alone," she wouldn't have understood it. So being real, vulnerable, and communicating these things with your loved ones is huge. Caveat. You do not want to fucking be a little bitch. Like, you don't want to be complaining about everything, fucking telling her all the problems. "Oh, I'm so depressed, I'm so anxious." That's not what men do, right? But a strong man, a leader in the household, can say to his children, "You know what? It's been a really hard day, and this is how I fixed it." That's leadership. You can say to your wife, "Man, it was a really stressful day. I'm feeling quite down, but I'm grateful I have you in my life." When you're able to show them the negative and how you handle it through taking responsibility and responding from a place of power, you then show them what's possible for them. Because everyone finds life hard. Business owners, wives, husband, children, the world is a fucking dark place. It's hard. It's a war zone, especially for men. When you can show your loved ones what you're thinking, what you're feeling, be vulnerable and real, you fucking win. Now, all of this sounds relatively simple. Take responsibility for the quality of your relationships. Decide how you're going to respond to situations, because that improves the perception of how they see you. And then once you've taken responsibility and you respond from a place of power, despite how fucking hard it is, you show up as the man. You don't just expect them to think you're the man. You are real through communicating with vulnerability and explaining how hard it is, the challenges you're going through, the wins, the losses, so they can come on the journey with you. This is going to elevate you as a massive leader in the household, because it shows the people around you that you can show the fuck up and step the fuck up despite how fucking hard it is, because it is hard. Being a business owner, husband, father, combined, so difficult, but this is where strong men come through. There is a fourth step though, and a lot of men struggle with this, and that's actually taking what I've shared and putting it into a cohesive system. It's hard to get the support and understanding from your wife and kids, or from your employees, because they're never going to truly understand what you're going through. That's exactly why we run the Empowered Man program. We currently have 250 men from all over the world who are business owners, husbands, fathers, who are learning these skills of responsibility, response time, vulnerability, communication, which means they have better businesses, they make more money, they work less hours, they have better intimacy and connection in their relationships. They have it all because there are other men doing it with you. It is a lonely journey. So find a support network. Step 4 is find other men like you who can help you become a better leader. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you're spending time with men who make $10, $100 million a year, while also having a healthy body, while also leading their families and being respected and appreciated, while also having connection in their life, while also having fun and joy and freedom, if you're around those sorts of people, it's very likely you're going to become like those sorts of people. So find a network that does that. We also do that at the Empowered Man. So if you want to be around myself and other men doing that, go down below. There'll be a link where you can book a coaching session with my team, and we'll create a custom roadmap for you on how to become a better leader at no charge, whether you work with us or not. Sure, you might become a client. If not, all good. You'll get a ton of value. So I hope that helps. If it did, give it a thumbs up. Drop a comment down below. And if you do want a custom roadmap on how to implement this and become a better leader, just go to the first link down below, book a session with our team, and I'll see you for the next episode of the Empowered Man podcast.